Alright, hello there, and welcome to another Starfield video. So as the title says, today we're going to be talking about the Shattered Space expansion. I'm going to give my opinion. It's going to be a review. There's going to be a lot of spoilers. I'm going to try and keep the spoilers to a minimum. I'm going to kind of give a brief synopsis and kind of my thoughts for people who are like interested in buying but don't want spoilers. And then after that, I'm going to kind of go more in depth. So I suppose the first thing I will say is that I have completed the main quest and some of the side quests of the game. I think at this point, I've probably played for about 9 to 10 hours. Um, that's doing primarily main quests, but also like side quests and stuff. So just with that in mind. So what do you get for your money? Which obviously we'll go in more in depth later on as we look at the spoilers. But for €30, I think it's 30. It might be a little bit cheaper if you've Game Pass Ultimate. You basically get an area, Dazra, or not Dazra, Varunkai, which is a planet. The system itself has multiple planets in it. Varunkai being the main planet with the city of Dazra on it. There's also two other planets that seem to house life in the system. There's about I think there's about 10 planets altogether, so you have a bit to explore. Now, Varunkai itself has a few biomes you can explore, but Dazra is kind of the main premise behind it. And Dazra itself it's quite large, to be honest. It seems a lot bigger than like New Atlantis and some of the, and Jameson and like Aquila, but I think that's just because of how it's like set up. Well, obviously, I haven't explored areas that are like biomes that are outside of Dazra, the city itself. Like I've explored around the city. There's a lot to do in the city. It adds a load of new weapons, some brand new, some are kind of reskins, which we'll talk about in a minute. It adds some new suits, a lot of new clothing, and a couple of new foods and stuff. So kind of what you expect. Now, I suppose the side quests themselves, like when you exploration wise, there's a lot to do, a lot. The side quests are pretty substantial. I've done like a few, which we'll get into more in a few minutes, and they offer interesting choices and dynamics that kind of blends like good storytelling and lore with quite interesting and impactful like voice acting, which I know you're saying voice acting like Crims, this isn't a mod, I know, but there's certain characters that I think did a really good job of portraying themselves, even though they were only side quests. There's quite a few from what I've gathered. There's basically, if you kind of imagine, you've got the city of Dazra, and then you've got like a load of locations around it. Some are populated friendly settlements that are all named, which makes me think that there's quests to it. I've kind of been to a few, and it's obvious that there's quests to do. A spoiler, this is a slight spoiler. One of the achievements says like basically help pretty much everyone, so I'm assuming that's, you do everything. Main quest itself, I'd say if you were to just grind through the main quest, you could probably get it done in maybe 6 hours, depending on the difficulty. Enemy wise, there's a lot of new enemies, and if you were playing, I was playing on normal, I believe. Wasn't playing on extreme because this character wasn't geared, and I was having some difficulties with certain enemies. Now, I wasn't as prepared as I would have liked to have been, mainly because the character I was playing I haven't touched since literally the first month Starfield came out. I've been playing with mods, as you guys know. So I would say if you come in with a character that's kitted, you'll on extreme, if you want a proper challenge, extreme, but by Jesus, some of the new enemies. The storyline of the main quest itself is very interesting. There's a lot of references, like in a lot of dialogue options that I spotted. It's very heavily weighted towards the Great Serpent, which is quite interesting. One of the things to note, though, is that and again, we'll get more into it, I suppose, in a minute. Because, like I said, I'm trying to keep it as spoiler free as possible initially, so that people can kind of get the gist. There is like a lot of other like like perk related dialogues. I've seen a Starborn one, which is pretty cool, and like a couple of perk based ones, security sneaks, stuff like that, which is really really cool. Um, but it seemed like the Great Serpent one, um, the worshipper, snake worshiper, whatever you want to call it. Basically, if you like almost every single like main quest and a lot of side quests, you can answer as the Great Serpent, not the Great Serpent. You can answer using the Serpent's Embrace perk, where basically you're like a fanatic believer, um, which is interesting. It kind of leads you down a specific route. But yeah, all in all, oh, okay. So all in all, let me before I finish that. So one thing I will say, there's no, to my knowledge, how I haven't explored absolutely everything, but from what I gathered and from what some of the boys and gals are saying on Discord, there is no ship parts or ship stuff added. If you go to the vendor, there is a ship vendor, and the ship vendor basically just sells the Varun ships. So like like the reskinned Stroud Eklund vessels, and basically sells Tayo and Stroud Eklund parts. No new weapons, which is a bit of like no new ship weapons. There's a lot of new base weapons, which is a bit of a letdown considering like as you play through, you kind of get the feel that there should have been. I suppose now that kind of that's been said, the kind of my review as is if you're the sort of person that you really like the House Faroon storyline, um, and you like the lore of the Great Serpent, you will really really enjoy this. There's a mix of it kind of blends the kind of the religious side of House Faroon with the scientific technological side, and it melds quite well together. It kind of showcases how interesting they are. If you're not really interested in the Great Serpent, like let's say for instance, if you're the sort of person like you're a good guy, I'm not saying the Great Serpent's bad, but coming in here as a kind of an atheist, you can definitely still kind of do the main quest and stuff, being kind of against the Great Serpent and kind of more so working the angle of just trying to help people. And that's I think what I'll do in a future playthrough. This playthrough, I basically went all Great Serpent dialogue choices. Um, the other thing I will say is somebody said, I can't remember who it was. I do apologize. I mentioned it in one of the episodes, but there's a very big kind of influence, or it seems like an influence of the Dark Elves from Elder Scrolls, in that you have like the houses and then the speaker and stuff, which is really cool. So if you like it does feel like Morrowind, in my opinion. Now, not the game itself, more so the setting. Like I haven't played Morrowind, but I've played Elder Scrolls Online, and I've been around Morrowind, that sort of stuff. And it kind of gives that vibe of like these different houses that are kind of vying for power in their own right, and still kind of working together. But yeah, like all in all, I think it's an amazing DLC. And I think that if you're anyway a fan of Starfield and you've been interested in getting in, you want to see the story evolve, definitely recommend it. Now, if you're the sort of person where you kind of more so just care about, let's say, for instance, shipbuilding, and you couldn't care less about the storyline, I probably wouldn't recommend it because, like, it adds nothing new ship-wise. But I feel like if you're playing Starfield just for the shipbuilding, it's as much as I enjoy the shipbuilding lore is there too. So now let's get into kind of the nitty gritty. This is where the spoilers are going to kind of be. This is the kind of from this point on spoilers. Um, so first of all, the way the kind of the quests are done is really cool. You're introduced to the new enemy types straight away. There's these like phantoms. They're basically they're like ethereal House Faroon, like zealot almost. They're not zealots, but they're basically House Faroon that have been basically they've been sent to like an alternate reality, kind of almost like their bodies have been transferred to a different plane where yeah, they're harder to kill and they could teleport. Now, this is pretty cool. Lore-wise, you learn more about later on the story, which is really cool how it does it all. There's also these horrors, which I don't believe the horrors are tied specifically to like the House Varun guys. I think it's more so a byproduct. We learn about like the vortex, which is the vortex is like Jin and Varun said that it's the area between universes, which is pretty interesting. Like at once you hit down in Dazra itself, like you're pretty much like, well, actually not even when you hit Dazra, like from the get-go, you're like thrown like new gear. Like there's a load of new armor sets which I've showcased and done videos of. They should be up by this point. There's a lot of new weapons. Now some are new, some are reskins. So again, I'll do a more of a like I'll do a detailed breakdown on them. At some point, it probably will be a couple of days. But there's a couple of brand new weapons. One of which is the minigun, which is really really cool, and there's like another one which is like basically like it's like a imagine a grenade launcher that shoots like a ball of like energy, and then when the energy hits, it expands out. Very cool. There's also a lot of reskinning in this DLC. And initially, I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of lazy of Bethesda. But the more I kind of think about it, it makes sense from a lore point of view. Like, there's a Varun version of the Solstice, of the Orion. There's a Varun version of the Echo. What's the laser rifle? Not the Orion, the other one. You know the one I'm talking about. It's like skinny. Um, there's quite a good few new weapons. There's like a couple of melee weapons. Um, Armor wise, we're quite limited so far. What I've seen, like I said, I've only played the main story and some quests, but I did look in the game files and stuff, and we're basically limited to about 3 or 4 generic sets, as in like sets that aren't unique. And then there's like I think there's like 1 or 2 unique sets. So not a lot when it comes to space armor, but there is a lot when it comes to spaces, but there is a lot when it comes to general customization. There's a lot of new gear, very Varun inspired. A lot of space suits that have like cloth and like cloaks over them. They're basically just clothing. They're not spacesuits, which I really really like. One of the things I think that's really really cool, I found out was really cool, is that the guards that walk around Dazra and patrol, they actually patrol around like the around Varunkai, like the outskirts, which is insane. They have like the basically it's like the neon guard armor, but it's green, and they're wearing a green helmet that basically is the operator helmet, which again is interesting because it makes me think, did Ryujin like get their hands on some and counter build it? You know what I mean? But anyway, but yeah, like a lot of new stuff in that regard. No ship parts, which kind of bothered me because as you play through the storyline, you see that House Faroon are very technologically advanced. Like they have technology out the wazoo. The fact that they're able to not only are they able to basically break down and kind of rebuild existing tech, like for instance the Orion, they basically have their own version that's far better. They also have far better armor, and like they seem to have a big military presence. But even though there's actually like turrets around the city that look really cool and are like completely new turrets, they're like ship size basically. There's no new turrets, which is really strange. So like no new, like they're basically kitting their soldiers up. Like their soldiers, the way they're geared, and you see them. There's like a military camp in the city. They're geared very well to the point where they would like basically they'd roll over the Freestar Collective currently. They might give the UC Marines might give them a run for their money, but particle weapons, that's their main thing. But then you have like the ships. They're using basically Stroud Eklund ships. So it's like they're not producing their own ships. They're producing their own weapons and armor, but not ships. Which like you look at that from a supply line point of view doesn't make very much sense. They're going to have very limited ships as is. Like the whole point when you like do the story and stuff, a lot of the ships, are basically were destroyed with the incident. So I was a bit, yeah, that was kind of my biggest bummer, basically. Um, the city itself is really cool. Most of it is like destroyed, sadly, because of what happened. which again, it makes sense. It's kind of like, when you go to Kvatch and you hear all these people, oh, the arena at Kvatch is so cool, but the arena doesn't exist because it was blown up. But what's left of the city is like really cool itself. A lot of cool areas. Basically, the Varunkai or Nazra is run by the three houses. One focuses on like the military, one focuses on like diplomacy, and then one focuses on, I want to say, like tech slash health stuff, sciency. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of that. Now, side quests are awesome. I've done a few so far, really awesome. There's one quest in particular I did where like basically you're helping these two, or helping, dealing with these two brothers' grievances, and it's a very interesting quest line that's very emotionally deep and diverse. You've got these two interesting characters that have strengths and weaknesses. They've got rights and wrongs, and it's like a really good, really interesting quest. And the way you go about, kind of, you can basically end it multiple ways, which was really cool. There's a couple of other quests like that. Bethesda did a really good job of allowing the player to, with these side quests, to make sure the player has as much choice as possible. One example is part of the main quest, you're basically sent out by one of the factions to hunt down the son of this elder who's like the leader of the houses, because he basically ran away, and he wants his son killed. His, like, the elder's sister is like, how dare you, threaten to kill my nephew, you don't mean it, blah blah blah. So he's like, go and kill the son and kill anyone who helped the son, because I need to uphold the integrity of my house. And you can do that, but you don't have to kill the son. You can just instead convince the son to give you a ring to signify, oh, he's dead, and then and you go back and you tell the father, and the father's like, good job. And then the aunt, or the sister of the father, gets irate and is like, you, talking to the elder, you've basically, like, you'll regret this, blah blah blah. And then she runs off in a thing, and that's it, mission done. But you can actually go to the aunt and be like, and she's like, I hate you, I can't believe what you did. And you can basically tell her, look, he's not dead. And she's like, what? It's like, yeah, he's not dead, I'm not a monster. Which is really cool. He obviously could have killed the son, but I like that. It wasn't the sort of thing where, it wasn't telling me to go to the person. I was just going on a hunch, hoping, and lo and behold, you can. There's like another quest that I was working on where I didn't like fully do it. Oh, no, I did actually do it. Where like you basically are like, you're kind of atoning for your sins. Although I want to elaborate. I still don't think I did any sins, but apparently Andresia thinks I did, and I lied. And you basically have to like read from this book, and you're going around trying to basically walk the path of this original guy who put down these like 4 pillars, the pillars of like Varun society. It's strength, obedience, perseverance. Oh, I can't remember what the fourth one was. But basically, you're trying to like find each pillar, and then as you find each pillar, you kind of, it's in like, the quest itself is pretty simple. It's just go from point A to point B to point C to point D. But you're kind of exploring as you go. Like, but again, Bethesda, good job of, this is kind of coercing you to these different areas, and I'm nearly at point B, but look, there's an area over there. And then once you kind of do it and you explore, you go back and you have like this kind of philosophical debate, basically with this like this priest guy, and he's not really judging you, but he's kind of asking you, what you think of each one, because each pillar like tells you something, and you can respond like in a way like you agree with the pillars. The pillars are very much like, religious house for ruin sort of stuff. So like, yeah, the side quests are amazing. Bethesda always kills it with side quests. Their side quest teams are just, they're out of this world. There's still a lot to do with the side quests, so I still have a lot more, but from what I've seen so far, I think I've done probably 4 side quests, and they've probably all together taken me about 2 hours. And I know there's a lot more, because I've got a lot more in the log. Now the main quest. So I suppose start with the goods. The fact that you can basically play through the whole main quest choosing the Serpent's Embrace dialogue option, making you like a religious kind of fanatic, is really cool. Until I realized pretty like late on that like religious fanatic means that I'm an asshole in terms of what I would do. Like the quest line where basically you're going to you're trying to find the son for that guy. If you choose the Serpent's Embrace option, when you're talking to the guy that helped him escape, you basically call him a heretic and you threaten to kill him. And then the same when you finally meet the son, you literally are like, "You ready to die, traitor?" Which is like, okay, fair enough. But which again, it's interesting. It's very roleplay heavy. If you want to roleplay as like a like a devout worshiper of the Great Serpent, it's yeah, it's amazing. Now, I didn't really choose this. Sometimes I chose the non kind of Great Serpent options because sometimes the Great Serpent options were like, bruh. Towards the end of the game, with the Great Serpent option, I was a bit let down. So basically, you're given there's like the final quest. You're hit with a you can choose to submit and serve the Great Serpent and serve the Varun guy by basically dying, or you can attack him and rebel. And I initially chose the serve option because I'm a good worshiper, thinking that something would happen, but nothing happened. The game just reloaded the checkpoint, which was kind of a little bit upsetting. Like I'm also a starborn, and like the way it like kind of worked is like you're like, oh, you're gonna be trapped in like this alternate dimension. It kind of it works. The whole like plot point behind like what's happening on House Varun or Varun Kai is similar to if you've done the quest where there's like alternate realities. One reality it's the science installation. One reality has like one single guy, and then the other reality has loads of them, and you teleport a lot. You're like teleporting around. Like it's kind of like that. And I was really, really saddened by like the choices in terms of like the fact that if you go that route, you're basically left for game over. Which yeah. Now there was another choice prior. One of the big things again, I'm warning spoilers, but I think at this point it's clear. Where basically you can restart the Great Crusade. Now I chose not to do that because I kind of realized like I don't want to kind of commit to that. Now I will say I'm not sure what happens when you choose that, but realistically, I don't think there's going to be anything impactful choosing that, at least currently. Maybe if we get like a new expansion or update down the line, if you choose that option, something might show up. It might just be that, choosing that option, you see more House Varun ships, maybe. Um, but yeah, like I was let down by that choice in the main quest if you wanted to go that route. The way it's kind of like the way it's all talked about, like it seems like the Great Serpent is kind of telling you or guiding you, because like basically the Varun guy, the leader, Mr. Varun, he's like trapped, and he like instantly when you land, he teleports in, and he's like talking to people, but people can't understand him, but you can. You're the only one who can understand him, and no one knows why. And at that point, I had fully taken on the mantle of the Great Serpent, because I'm like, okay, the Great Serpent has basically brought me here to listen to him. So that's why I was like always choosing the Serpent Embrace option. But then when you get to the end of the quest line, and it's like, all right, your loyalty and devotion has been rewarded with death. That was like, really? Like, I really wish that there would have been a kind of an option. And here's the thing, there very well may be, because there is certain points which we'll cover in a minute where like there might be multiple endings to quests. But from what I gathered, I don't think there is. But yeah, I thought it would have been cool if like Speaker leaves you for dead, you wake up with like a vision from the Great Serpent. He's like, your journey's not over, blah blah blah. They're like, holy shit, you're alive, and then you can choose to basically confront him or not, and be like, I seen a vision from the Great Serpent and stuff, and kind of yeah. But sadly, that was not the case. You're basically forced to either the game ends there and you just say goodbye to your character, or you fight him back and you have this really intense, really badass fight scene. Now going back to the choices and stuff, there's another quest, part of the main quest, where basically you go under this dam, and there's like these like power, they're called like vortex and vortex something. They're basically these like basically imagine like a super technological frisbee thing that powers devices, and there's like two of them under this dam, and you can take one, and if you go to take the other, these like entities that are protecting it basically say you're going to doom the village nearby. There's like a village basically. They're using the water for seaweed, and I initially grabbed the second one, and then I went out, and it's like, oh, check on the village. You go to the village, and everyone's alive, but they're like, oh no, the great serpent has forsaken us. We've no more, our food is no longer there. And then Andrea's just like, that was the poor choice. And I reverted at that point, because, yeah, I was like, okay, fair enough. Now, at no point after that was there ever really an indication that you needed more than one. For the main quest itself, you need exactly one. I didn't see an option for a second. Now maybe there might be an option for a second that I've missed out on, which again, like I said, I apologize. I'm trying to get this review out as quickly as possible, but I don't think there is. I think it was just, honestly, I think it's one of those situations, kind of like Dead Money, where like Bethesda put it in as a kind of a like, you made a poor choice and people died. Because when you actually like get the device, the vortex thing, and you bring it back to the scientist is like, oh yeah, I don't need that, by the way. Maybe you might need it later, but it's of no use to me. And you're kind of like, what the fuck? These people have no food. What the hell? And then yeah, there is at the very start. There's like this interesting ceremony where basically you're basically following the Great Serp, or like you're becoming a promise, which means you're like a full-fledged member. And like there's a lot of optional steps, like you can blow out a candle, you can take the leap of faith, you can sacrifice something. I sacrificed my massive helmet. You can kill a Grox throat. Now, I don't know if choosing to not do those things has any effect. Maybe it does. I don't think it would though. Just let me know in the comments, like if any of you guys chose to not do the optional steps when you were kind of becoming the promise. I did the optional steps because I was trying to go full Varun mode. And then look how that turned out. I was basically like, oh, you're dead, lol. Um, there was a part of me that was hoping that the Great Serpent might speak to me in the presence of like the council members and Mr. Varun himself, and then like I could have taken over as speaker. I know, yeah, you wishful thinking, but you never know. But yeah, so quest wise, it's just yeah, it's a really good quest, and it's just the end. It's kind of like bittersweet. Because like you've got this massive build up, and you like have like basically right before the ending choice, you have another choice because they want to Mr. Varun wants to restart the Serpent's Crusade, and he basically admits that he wants to restart the Serpent's Crusade in the hopes that it will allow him to speak to the Great Serpent, and he doesn't care about sacrificing lives as people. And it kind of bothered me because like I was like, okay, maybe I can like convince the council that he was stupid, and you can't really because they're all kind of brainwashed, which I can understand. But at certain points when the council are kind of talking amongst themselves, it makes it clear that there's a divide. You've got like one guy that's very much like a stoic kind of like conservative, like believes in the way of the way it is. There's a kind of a rebellious one that's very much like we need to move with the future. And then there's like a third option where it's just like, oh yeah, he kind of sits in the middle. Now I was all behind the rebellious one until it was one of the main quests where she's like, "Yeah, you got to kill people," and I'm like, "Excuse me? Yeah, we got it's good for the good of the house. A lot of for the good of the house shit, which is again fair. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it with the main quest. It's like it's still really awesome. It's just a bit of a letdown in how it ended. But like I said, it's very clear there's multiple endings in terms of how you play it out and stuff. And like there's multiple points where you can basically like rat out the certain houses to the council. I chose not to, but it'll be interesting in future playthroughs seeing how that kind of works. um Aside from that, yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. There is obviously, seen from the trailer, there's also the zealots play a pretty big role in it in terms of in the initially in the main story at the start and then right at the end. that was another kind of a bit of a letdown. Basically, you learn that like one of the zealots want to basically bring back their house, and they're looking for leverage. And again, I was helping out the main quest. I was helping the like the actual house, not the zealots. But I don't think there was an option. I don't think there's like an option basically to side with the zealots, and I kind of wish there was an option side with them and kind of bring their house back. Now there may be someone may be like Crimson, you're an idiot, you can. Which if that's the case, that is awesome. Let me know. I don't think it is though, just because you can kind of tell by how NPCs talk, with the dialogue and stuff, if there was going to be like alternate choices. There's also some spacers, and I believe there's Crimson Fleet, but I have yet to come across them. But yeah, like all in all, it's an awesome DLC. It's definitely worth it. Oh, one other thing I will say, like for like relics or like the statues you go around, they give you unique buffs temporarily, a la like Skyrim, which is really cool. I think one like was like power regeneration and more power. One was like carry weight. One was like weapon damage and zealot damage, which is really cool. I really like that. But yeah, I guess ultimately, regarding the main quest, I was really hoping that we could save Dazra, because Dazra's obviously like it's in ruins and stuff, and the whole of Varun Kai is like got these like massive portals slash like weird kind of blobs everywhere. And I was kind of hoping in the main quest there was a way to basically disable, bring Dazra back to former glory. Don't think that's the case, sadly. Again, maybe wrong, but if somebody's, oh, um, yeah, that is it. All in all, I think it's an awesome expansion. I think it's one of the things of like, like the fact that I enjoyed it thoroughly. The only negative I had basically um was basically, yeah, the fact that I didn't like how the ending went towards the House for Ruin stuff. I'm gonna do multiple playthroughs and stuff. I'll probably be doing a playthrough on stream. I don't know if this will come out. This might come out before or after. But yeah, like it's regardless of like the end storyline, which it's one of the kind of the banes of Bethesda. They're not really good at doing main stories. There's always like something. It's side quests they do better, which is like really really ironic. Because like again, they nailed it with all these side quests, all awesome. But the main quest is still awesome. But yeah, it's just like I feel like the main quest lacks some choices. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, if I said anything, I played most of it. I still have a lot to do though. It's like with any kind of Elder or with any Bethesda kind of title in game, there's a lot to do, even past the main quest and stuff. A lot to explore. But yeah, let me know if I said anything wrong. If I said something that like you're like, oh no, that Crimson, that's not right. That's you can actually do that. But yeah, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and catch you in the next one. Bye bye.